If they do have a backdoor flush draw, they have it. If they have a boat, they have it. But I think that's going to be quite rare. Smash that like button, hit subscribe to join our growing community, and comment down below to join our poker conversations. Checked and off, blind versus blind. Pretty easy to defend. Top pair with an open ender. It's a really great flop. Don't expect villain to bet here that often. If villain does check, I believe, I can check or bet for value. I can get called by a fair amount of worse hands. 9-10, 8-10, Queen 9, Ace 10, King 10. Getting check raise is not super great, although, again, I feel like getting check raise is low frequency. I can also check behind and play turns and rivers accordingly while still targeting 8x, 9x. And now on the turn, that's going to give them a fair amount of top pair. So King, Queen, Ace, Queen, like a hand like Queen 9 is 2 pair now. Once we have a straight, we just really have to start betting. We are going to check back a fair amount of pair plus draw on the flop. So this bet is really polarized in that we either kind of have a straight or have nothing. And seeing as it is blind versus blind, it's pretty easy for us to have nothing. So sizing up, and the river is pretty much a blank. It does give villain more 2 pair with Ace 9, Ace 8, Ace Queen, Ace Jack. So that's pretty nice. And again, we've essentially established that we're only betting a straight and not a straight. And so because of that, after we bet big on the turn, now we're just going to bet big on the river and essentially put villain's bluff catchers in a spot and really target like 2 pair type hands. Come on, villain. There we go. 10s on the button. Definitely going to be playable. We have an open from villain that looks on the more passive side, but very, very few hands. So really hard to discern what's going on. Definitely going to be 3-betting. 3-betting this dude. Pretty tricky now. I think I'm just going to cold 4. I think that because the 2-seat is more likely to be a white belt, that the 3-seat can 3-bet a little bit wider than they otherwise would. Cold call of the 4-bet is insanely strong. With the action still open, it would not be surprising if aces are trapping here or kings. I'm not looking to play for stacks, even though the SPR is 1.5 and I have an overpair. Just, I think this range is just too tight. Ace or a king are certainly really, really bad turn or river cards. I think outside of ace king, their range is probably jacks, queens, kings, aces. I doubt even ace queen is in there. So villain checks again. I'm feeling pretty good about our hand, although I'm still tentative in betting because they maintain jacks. Do we have enough targets to get value from? I don't think so. We're really just targeting ace king. So ace king. Over here, we 3-bet the button opener with jacks, and now our friend in the big blind opted to jam their stack in. It's 140 to win 260. So about 2 to 1. I think they can do this fairly wide. They haven't 3-bet yet, which is a little bit concerning, but jacks is jacks. Don't worry, it'll let us see what happened in a moment after these technical difficulties subside. jacks in the small blind. Certainly going to be 3-betting versus the cutoffs open. And cutoff open a little smaller to 11. So 3-betting to 10 big blinds. If the cutoff 4 bets, then we'll just be calling, but all right, they call. Flopping an overpair on deuce 4. Certainly have a range to target their overpairs, you know, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, their club hands, their backdoor spades hands. So gonna start with a half pot size bet here. Also ace 5, ace 3, those types of hands, the gut shots with an overcard. Don't expect to get raised here really ever. I think the only hands that might raise would be like some kind of slow played premium or flush draws. I you know, we're on the turn now, but if we did get raised, we're probably just getting it in. Having the jack of clubs is actually not so great facing a raise, but that's not where we live. Here on the turn, I think the turn is interesting. So we can check the turn and 2x jam river and still target their smaller pocket pairs. We can check and raise facing a bet when they stab with their, you know, their backdoor flush draws, their front door flush draws, or even their small pocket pairs. It's double flush draw available, so should be perceived to have enough bluffs for villain to continue. They bet extremely small, and this actually puts us in a weird spot. And now I'm very much regretting my decision not to just bet the turn and probably jam the good rivers. Facing this very tiny bet, I believe we just have to raise. I think that they're going to choose this size and then check behind rivers just way too frequently. There's going to be a lot of rivers that we're going to struggle to be able to maximize value. So yeah, just going to raise here and then jam most rivers. Maybe not like, you know, the tray of spades, the tray of clubs, something like that. All right, A7 suited, blind versus blind, pretty easy open. We'll definitely be calling a 3-bet if villain decides to go for it here. Could even 4-bet, I think, blind versus blind. I think that 4-betting more is not the end of the world in such a loose pre-flop formation. So flopping top pair, top kicker. Gonna start out betting a third. Just hand that wants to bet, wants to get value. Villains tend to be quite sticky in blind versus blind. So yeah, just not really going anywhere and starting out with small. Straight completer, flush completer, pretty easy check. No reason to blast. Tough to get called 3 streets now on the 4 of spades. Once villain bets a third on the turn, it just makes it relatively easy call. And now, you know, the 9 on the river can give villain like 8-9. So some river top pair, but yeah, just top pair, top kicker, not going to be folding it blind versus blind. Ace king off. It's pretty good. Certainly good enough to 3-bet versus a low jack open. Hopefully we can get the 6 seat in here and go for a squeeze. A little bit of extra, you know, dead money, and if we did squeeze, the 6 seat might just stick it in a back raise, but alas, there they go. $8 big blind, 3-bet here to $40. If villain 4-bets, then I think we have a variety of options. Ace high mono. So villain shouldn't have a lot of offsuit hands that have a single spade. I think the hands that have single spades generally going to be pocket pairs. Ace queen off tends to 4-bet pre-flop. So yeah, they just have not a ton of flush draws other than their small pocket pairs. And so when we bet on the turn, we're essentially targeting like their suited ace-x as well as their pocket pairs that have a spade. The 10, relatively benign river card. I'm not sure if 10x calls the turn. So now, once again, we're targeting ace-jack, ace-jack suited, ace-queen suited. I think we're just going to go for it all. In hindsight, I think we could have bet the flop, but now, given this path and the fact that villain didn't bet the river on the deuce, just makes it less likely that they have flushes, less likely that they have boats. So ace-king is just almost always the best hand. And unfortunately, we didn't get the call. Queen 7 of diamonds. Yeah, I think we're going to peel facing, a 3x, button flat. 6-seat flatting would be even better. But, yeah, you take what you can get. You can't always get the best conditions. I do think we can turn a profit flatting. Good start. Good start. Flush draw with an overcard. Fair amount of equity. I do expect the 3-seat to be checking maybe close to range on Jack Deuce Deuce. They can certainly maintain their top pairs. They can maintain even their overpairs. Now the 5-seat flats. I think that on the flush completer, so great spot to go for value. Does Jack X call a bet? I don't know. Their flushes will certainly call a bet. Their lower flushes, but they're also going to have busted hearts that were better served by checking. But I really don't want to let their 10s or 9s or pocket 8s, maybe like a hand like ace 4 or their Jack X that they check behind on the flop, just check behind and over-realize their equity. So targeting bluff catchers, and unfortunately, they folded. King Queen off, certainly going to be good enough to either open or 3-bet, depending on what happens. So open it is, blind versus blind. Flopping top pair. It's a good start. Starting out with a C-bet for value. I think it's a pretty easy C-betting spot. 8 of hearts. Does complete flushes, but villain shouldn't have a ton of flushes. I guess they have some like small suited hearts. They 3-bet a ton of their heart type hands. We have all the flushes as well. So, blind versus blind, I don't think we can fold. I think we must call. Oh boy. The king counterfeits to pair. It doesn't really improve our hand though. Like villain's essentially wrapping a flush and not a flush. Hard to find a ton of natural bluffs. I guess like queen 10 with the heart, maybe 9-10 with the heart. I don't know how often they take this line. We have a queen. Maybe ace 10 off with a heart if they don't 3-bet that. But really, they have trays. Maybe they have king jack off. That's a boat. I think we have boats here. Trays, jacks. I think I'm just going to fold. Again, like trips deceptively appears as if it improves our hand, but I don't think it really improves our hand versus the type of hands that villain is repping. So yeah, unfortunate. And if they got us, they got us. Ace jack off in the cutoff. Pretty easy peasy open. Getting 3-bet from the button, assuming everybody folds. I believe we're just going to chunk this into our 4-betting range. I don't love calling out of position with these type of offsuit hands, especially given depth. I'd much rather, 4-bet and lower the SPR. Really great flop for our hand. Just considering sizes, half. A lot of SPR downstream SPR considerations here, like what size do we really want to choose? In general, I think that in 4-bet pots, you go smaller. We have a hand that's pretty immune to, you know, like facing a raise, for instance. Like we just have enough equity to kind of get it in. So started out smaller than half, although I do think half is like potentially viable. Now that we've gone this route, like gonna be betting small again. I think it's puts us in a difficult position if they jam, but they didn't jam. So, all right, we have kind of the perfect bluff combo, ace jack with the ace of diamonds. Yeah, there you go. They just snap folded, so easy peasy. Ace queen off. An obvious button open if I ever saw one. If one of the villains 3-bets, we can 4-bet or we can flat. I think both are viable options and generally is mixed in solver land, so you can just do whatever you want to do. I'm going to take the path of more aggression here, so going to 4-bet IP with ace queen off. If villain jams, we're just going to fold. This is really good flop for our range, really good flop for our hand. I think that the only real option that we have here is to bet small because, you know, it doesn't really matter what we do. When a board smashes our range like this, if we check behind, it looks suspicious. And so we really just need to start betting and hope to get called by villains, you know, ace X or king X or their gut shots, which they will almost certainly be forced to call with. And, you know, unfortunately, villain didn't have anything and folded, which is going to be the case more often than not when you get a flop like ace king X as the pre-flop in position 4-better. Ace tray of hearts. Easy button open. And it will be a slam dunk call facing a 3-bet as well if the small blind or big blind goes ahead and 3-bets us. There we go. These things happen. Don't really have any information on villain. Flopping a gut shot with backdoor nut flush draw, certainly strong enough to continue. I don't think I want to have raises here on the flop. You know, if I flopped straight like 6-7 suited or 4s or 5s or 8s, I don't think any of those hands that are in my range would start raising on such a dry board. So just, that's a good turn. That's a pretty turn. Okay, so SPR is 2. I think, you know, we could make an argument for checking back. We can make an argument for betting the turn. The deuce of spades does put up 2 to a flush. We do have backdoor flush draws in our range. We probably have some hands like, you know, ace 6 or ace 7 as well. And if we have backdoor spades, we've got backdoor diamonds, we've got backdoor hearts. So yeah, I think we have a bunch of bluffs, and due to the river very often being changing, I think betting is better than checking. And now that we're here, board pairing river is certainly great. We can just successfully target their overpairs, and yeah, just max value. If they do have a backdoor flush draw, they have it. If they have a boat, they have it. But I think that's going to be quite rare. There we go. And another thing is, you know, when considering value jamming the river, their backdoor flush draws will check raise all in on the turn at some frequency. So there is some removal there. And as I mentioned before, when villain recognizes that we have backdoor spades in our range, we also have, you know, backdoor of the 2 other suits as well, which, you know, kind of handcuffs them and makes it really tricky for them to be able to find a fold with their overpairs. Ace 6 of clubs. One of my opens from the hijack. It would be nice if everybody folded and we got the 4 seed all to ourselves. That would be the ideal scenario. we're close. We're at ideal. So backdoor nut flush draw and kind of a crappy 3 straight. Gonna start betting small here. In general, like paired boards, just gonna be generally using a small size when I'm c-betting. Once villain calls, I actually think that we do have equity with our ace high. We beat Jack 10, we beat Queen Jack, we beat Queen 10, we beat 6 7. So I don't really see much of a reason, and villain just gives us a pretty incredible price, so not going to be folding. King Queen off, I guess, as well is another hand that we beat. King Queen off in the hijack. Certainly playable and V-pippable. Come on, villain. Let's go. Let's go. If they 3-bet, just going to be folding pre, I think, with King Queen off, facing a big blind 3-bet. Facing a call and flopping top pair. Happy times. King Jack 5. Going to be starting out with half pot here. Generally using bigger sizes on these types of boards. Jack pairing on the turn is not very good, especially when we opt to use a bigger size on the flop. We just don't bet a lot of our Jack X. So we don't bet a lot of our Jack X big on the flop. So villain certainly has like a Jack X advantage. Villain overbets the river. One kind of key question here is like, does villain ever have quads, right? Like I think we just have to raise. Villain doesn't ever have 4 of a kind. But I don't think we can raise big. I think if villain did, bet Jack X using the overbet size, they're not really going to be calling a giant raise. And so we really have to try to target the hands that can call, which would be, Jack X that decides to overbet, and I guess target like aces on the river, or maybe like ace high once the board double pairs, and maybe some of their, flop third pair or small pocket pairs get counterfeit that would enable us to call down with a hand like ace high. It's pretty reasonable actually, but yeah, it's pretty transparent when we raise the river. Hard for us to have a ton of bluffs, but I do think that we should we must go for value when villain just can't have quads. Don't miss out on our next great poker adventure. Hit that subscribe button and join the CPG family.
This is Chasing Poker Greatness with your host, Brad Wilson. Coach Brad approved. Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.